part of the Press Play Podcast Network.
We are back, y'all, with some more sports cards content.
Is that what this is?
This is the Ball Card Show, the sports podcast.
For the Sports Collector.
I'm Jason Otero.
And I'm Gary LeMaster.
And as always, we are brought to you by the Say It With Me, Gary,
Press Play Podcast Network. How about that?
That was sweet.
You know what I'm going to do now that you said that? I'm going to do, have you noticed this lately on Facebook? Anybody who has a podcast or writes one article for something somewhere, their Facebook profile says creator.
You are a creator.
A content creator. I'm changing mine to being a content creator.
You're a creator of Stonewash clothing.
I'm a creator of gas. I'm a creator of lots of food.
You are a walking tie-dye.
Well, that's just from sweat. And
Not everybody's sweat does
acidic
that.
sweat. I have severely acidic sweat. This is a fact.
Y'all, not to get too deep in the weeds. And also, don't ask me how I know this. But the varnish on Gary's bed is worn from his sweat.
Oh, I'm a sweaty man, and it is acidic sweat. I go through socks and drawers like nobody's business.
And that's Gary, and I'm Jason, and let me talk through gross things about me. One, I sweat a lot.
Who said? Some people are into sweat.
Two, sometimes when
It's
I'm
a weird
working
kink.
out and I do a squat, my fat claps.
Only when there's not very much weight on the bar because you can't go fast enough for it to clap otherwise.
No, it's on the way down. Clap. All right. We got to talk sports cards here, and I'm going to kick it off with late breaking news this week.
Oh, Jesus.
HGA has released rights for you to use Microsoft Paint on your labels.
What a shit show.
More like Mario Paint. Basically, you get to pick from a library of labels to use.
So do they no longer offer a truly custom label?
I'm guessing, because I only made it through half of the video.
Yeah, I don't care.
That to have it designed will cost different amount than using the library.
Okay.
But,
yeah.
Now, it would be cool if you had something truly PC and you're just hanging on to it. You don't care about the value. Like if you could find a cool label like to do the Beam Team set with.
If you're just getting something slabbed for your personal collection, you're not ever planning to resell it. You're not planning to. Who gives a shit? Put it in whatever slab you want to.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Whatever you like,
that's a
go
solution
nuts.
that they're providing, and I think that part is cool. But man, I was expecting some big news, like, hey, we're turning this ship around.
They did make it. Well, there's no turning that ship around. The iceberg is about 100 yards off the bow, and nobody can do anything about it.
Ishmael is just watching that whirlpool, and it's just. Was that reference too deep?
A little bit. You went Moby Dick. I got you.
Yeah.
I'm with you.
But anyway, so that was big news. Also, we finally have seen what the Bowman card will look like. That everybody's
The Tom
going to be
Brady
chasing
card
in
in
Bowman
Bowman
draft.
draft?
Yeah. Michael Rubin threw a big party, and everybody in Illuminati was there. And
Can you tell everybody what the party was? Because this makes me laugh every time. Jason will tell you any of my actual friends, and it's a small group because one, I'm not very likable, and two, I don't like very many people.
these are facts.
So I have a very small group of friends, but they will all tell you what my favorite television show of all time is. The League.
I was going to say Bonanza.
Stop. Paul.
I knew you watched it.
Paul. Oh, yeah. As a kid, you didn't watch Bonanza on Nick at Night?
I wasn't allowed to watch secular.
Yeah, there you
It had
go.
to be old shows.
And you get the Waltons and Bonanza.
Wonder Years was a reach, but we were allowed. It would
Yeah.
really push the label sometimes.
What about Life Goes On? With Corky?
No, but the Facts of Life was on TV a
I
lot.
was also not allowed to watch.
Here we go. Get Smart. Basically, the Nick at Night lineup was
Yes, for sure.
Brady Bunch. I can't tell you. When I see
Did you
the
get
Brady
Howdy
Bunch,
Doody and My Three Sons?
we weren't that into that. We weren't that into that.
Okay. Well, they might not have been playing them. You're 6, 7 years younger than me.
Yeah.
So you might have missed that window. We saw that a lot. But I also, this is controversial.
Mork and Mindy.
Oh, yeah. Although Mork and
you know
Mindy was
what?
a little.
That was solid.
Mork and Mindy was a little edgy for my family.
Yeah.
I was not really allowed to watch Life Goes On. And as an adult, when I see episodes of Life Goes On, The only reason I can think of that I was not allowed to watch Life Goes On is that my family did not want me exposed to Down syndrome. I think that's the only reason. There's nothing offensive about that show whatsoever. Nothing. I have not seen one single offensive
Who
thing in
even
that
has
show.
that thought? I'm changing the subject immediately because I'm so scared of what's going to come out of your mouth.
I'm just saying there was nothing offensive about the show.
Have you ever thought maybe they just didn't like the show?
No, that's not how my family worked.
Okay, we'll leave that alone. Let's move on. So anyway, your favorite show is The League.
Oh, yeah, The League.
I'm really glad we went down that rabbit
There was
hole.
an episode of The League where Andre throws a party, and it's a whites party, which is what you'd refer to this,
No, I said a white party.
a white party.
Yeah, not a whites.
Well, Andre had the poster up that said whites only, but he meant everybody has to wear white clothing only.
Can this be the last eggshell? Let's keep it with like ableism and your racism, and we'll just box that up and ship it away and go back to sports cards after this. You're making me so nervous. My feet are crossed under the table.
So all I'm saying is that you told me about this where you saw this card and it immediately made me think of that episode of The League. If you're listening to this show and you haven't ever watched The League, do yourself a favor and start season 1, episode 1 immediately upon ending of this podcast and thank me later.
Yep, all of that for that. And but Ruben got himself a really nice inscribed card. What did it say? Brady signed it and said,
if this baseball thing doesn't work out, there's always football.
Yeah. So that's going to be a big chase. We were talking about what that might be for breaks. So you're thinking that they will either have like an Expos or a Brady spot in a break.
Yeah.
Which you said the good news. I agree with you. It would probably bring the price of the other teams down a little bit. But if you're trying to buy a box of this,
Oh, you're going to pay through the nose.
Yeah.
At least until once the superfractor gets hit, prices will drop.
Yeah.
But until then, you're going to pay through the nose for that product. And Bowman Chrome here coming out soon is going to be the same way because Ethan Salas is in it, and it's going to be dumb. Chase, if you want to buy the Padres in those breaks,
Bowman
good luck.
Chrome coming up. We might have to tease him with a little prospecting episode.
I'm in.
I know.
Sign
You're
me
smiling
up.
so big. So today what we wanted to talk about is a shift that we're seeing in the hobby. You may have heard other people
We're done
talking
with
about it as
HGA?
well. We're done with HGA.
Okay, good, 'cause
we're
they're
done
awful.
talking about the Bowman draft. I want to talk about the shift to collectors moving more towards singles and away from
Singers
and away from wax. So if you've been to Walmart, Target, Meijer, wherever, a common theme is the shelves are full of boxes. This was not the case a couple of years ago. People get tired of overpaying, losing their money. And what we're also seeing happen is people realize there's a greater value for them financially and then enjoying the hobby and getting more into the collection of singles space.
Yeah, I left a case and a half of optic blasters sitting. I didn't even buy one.
I
sitting
saw
on a shelf.
about a case there.
Just left them sitting.
Bowman Megas, which I still will pick that up from time to time. For me, retail has become what I probably should be in a healthy way, where it's like, oh, once a week or once every couple weeks, I'm grabbing a box or two. I'm not going crazy.
I've ripped my Bowman allotment for the year. I've ripped a case of Megas. I've ripped case and a half of blasters. I'm good.
But the point we're trying to make is there's a reason this stuff's sitting on the shelf and card shows are thriving. And I think people are starting to move into this space where they're realizing, this is a more enjoyable side of the hobby.
It's stopping being a lottery ticket and becoming a hobby again.
For people that jumped back into the hobby when I did maybe like a year before it went completely bonkers, but it was definitely on the way there.
Yep.
That was like our introduction. I can't lose. If I find this Prism basketball with a Zion or Ja in it for $25 at Walmart, it's already worth
$19.99.
it's already worth $50. At the time, I was like, you could double your money. Those blasters went up to what, $200-$300 before it was all said and done.
Blasters got to about 100. Megas were like $275
for the Megas, yeah. So it went nuts. But now what we're seeing is the expectation for some newer collectors is that that's going to happen. And then they're looking around at these boxes full of cards they have from just new products they've opened or breaks they've been in, and they don't see a lot of value there. And the majority of the cards, they can't get rid of them. And so what we want to do tonight is kind of break down, if you're kind of in that spot where you have been collecting new product, just mostly collecting through breaks or buying sealed stuff, which there's nothing wrong with buying sealed stuff. But if you've mostly done that and you're getting a little bit burnt out, you're missing a whole side of this thing that, in my opinion and Gary's, is a lot more enjoyable.
Yes.
And that is collecting, selling, trading singles. So what we'd like to do is just kind of break it down, almost like a little bit of 101 of a few areas. One, how to get into this, where to buy these cards, where are you going to find deals, what do you even, the philosophy behind it, all right?
Yeah.
Secondly, if you're buying them, you're also going to need to organize them. So how do you organize it when now all the cards that you purchased are cards that you wanted? Think about that for a second. Enjoy the reward of that thought. Every card you purchase is a card you actually like, all right? So now you're going to need to organize your stuff. And then third, what are going to be the best ways for you to move stuff or sell things? For me, I'm a hybrid. I have basically a collection of stuff that I think is cool that I want to sell. And then I have a collection of stuff that is much smaller of things that I want to hang on to. And every now and then, the things I want to hang on to box, I'll go grab a few things out of that and sell it. But let's back this whole thing up. I just gave you a 7-minute monologue. What are you seeing in this shift? Because, you know, if I'm doing 1 to 2 shows a month at best, you're doing 3 to 4. And you have certainly been like completely ingrained, you know, into the hobby before everything went nuts. And now what it's becoming in regards to people kind of moving more towards singles.
Yeah, so the thing that you just said that is really very much the case is the days of buying, especially on the retail side, buying retail wax and consistently either breaking even or making money are gone. The hottest products will usually sell pretty quickly, but there's nobody standing in line waiting for the stock person anymore. Like I just said, I left a case and a half of optic blasters on the shelf. 2 days later, they were all gone, but nobody was standing there waiting to just scoop everything up.
Yeah.
Because they're $35 a crack.
Yeah.
If they were still $19.99 a box, I'd have bought a few. But not at $35, because what am I going to pull out of that to even break even? If I want to go buy, say I'm a Steelers guy and I want to buy some Kenny Pickett rookies, I can just go buy like 7 base Kenny Pickett rookies for the price of a single blaster. Or I can go buy a Purple Shock Kenny Pickett rookie for $5 less than the cost of a blaster.
Yeah.
So there's not a lot of impetus there. I know that when I'm set up at shows, the guys who have lots and lots of wax aren't selling a lot of it. Especially if it's a lot of retail wax. Guys aren't getting $50-$60 for blasters at the drop of a hat just by being in the right place at the right time and doubling their money.
Do you remember we were at a very large show that we've referenced before, and there was a guy that had all of the retail in the Midwest. It was clear that he had a plug for that.
Yeah.
And he also clearly did not make money at the end of the day. And he was complaining and then just trying to be like, man, I worked really hard. I had to go up to Michigan from this collector and that collector. And then you have all these ideas just staring at him like, dude, you're lying.
Yeah, 100%.
It's not working. You said something, and I know you have more, but when you talked about buying the optic because you're not going to get the money back, I think it brings up a good point of mindset.
Yeah.
Like, even somebody like you that enjoys opening cards has a tendency to think about what's my ROI on what I could hit in here primarily with new stuff compared to, because I've seen you impulsively buy Ed Oliver, you know, like if it's a card you like, you're buying it.
Yeah.
If it's a product that's sealed, there's a little more of like, what's the scratch off here? What can I hit?
You got to
it?
think about it from a business standpoint. And we mentioned this last week when we both went on a couple little rants, but nothing makes my brain explode more. Like, there was somebody posted something yesterday or today, I don't remember which, all the days kind of blend together, but they were like, I caught my first restart. They had a picture of the MJ Holdings boxes and somebody's talking, what should I buy? If you don't know what to buy, don't buy anything. Because there's no flip anymore on that stuff. You're not paying $39 for a box of optic football blasters at almost $40 after tax and then turning around and selling it for $50 shipped. Like, why would you do that? Like, what's the purpose? Do you need $5 that bad? I guess if you do, whatever, but I don't need it that bad. You're better off to just figure out what you want. And it's the same thing if you're buying to resell. Like, some guys are like, well, I'm going to rip this stuff and then sell it all. Well, again, I've said this 100 times.
It's a losing game.
Yes. You're better
on
off
average.
to just go buy a lottery ticket.
And
just go buy a lottery ticket.
If you disagree with me, here's the beautiful thing. On every pack or on every box are the literal odds of you hitting that card.
Yeah.
So it's mathematically designed for you to chase and for them to win.
Yes.
It's as if you're saying, I'll go to the casino with this $300 because I'll pay all the bills with my winnings.
Well, and you're actually better off at the casino because there's not a middleman. So in the sports card world, it used to be somewhat of a reasonable gamble. If you're buying a retail box here's a perfect example. Before things went insane, but things were on their way up, you found a big stash at Walmart on clearance of 2018 Topps Update baseball packs.
Yep.
That's Ohtani rookies. That's Juan Soto rookies.
It's like 30 packs, yeah.
Yeah, and you got them for $3.98 a piece, whatever it was.
That's awesome.
That's an unbelievably reasonable gamble to take. You could have ripped all those and probably come out way ahead. But if you had to buy those at $45 a piece, well, that's asinine. That's just insane. So what's happened with the sports card stuff on the retail side of things, and on the hobby side of things too, but it's more pronounced on the retail side of things, blaster boxes for years.
Just a reminder, retail, when we say that, means cards that are sealed that you buy in boxes or packs at your retail stores.
Retail configurations, blaster boxes, hanger boxes, mega boxes.
Hobby is an actual category from the manufacturer that has guaranteed hits in a different configuration, meaning what's in this box is not the same thing that's at the Walmart.
Yeah, and it's configured that way and only usually available at LCSs or online LCSs.
Yeah, okay, sorry.
No, that's okay. So if you buy, for years, blaster boxes were $14.99. Then they went to $17.99, and then they went to $19.99. They stayed at $19.99 for a long time. At $19.99, it's reasonable to buy optic blasters.
You're probably still losing $10 on it.
Yeah, but you're not losing 30.
Yep.
Right? Like if I'm okay taking a chance, a coin flip chance. If I lose 50% of the time, I'm okay taking that coin flip chance. But what's happened is the manufacturers and their distributors have decided to transfer every ounce of risk to the end user and collect all the potential profit themselves. So if they're going to do that, don't get me wrong, those of you who love to rip and gamble, please keep doing it, because you're how I get inventory for shows. You're how I buy stuff. You're how I'm able to buy the singles that drive my dealer business. So please keep doing it. But if you're one of the people out there listening, trying to figure out if there's a better way to do this hobby, whether it's from an investment standpoint or just from an enjoyment standpoint, you're going to get just as much of a rush and thrill of going and digging through value boxes and finding a hidden gem as you are ripping a blaster box and finding a hidden gem. And you've got a better chance. If somebody's got good value boxes, you're going to pull 20 gems out of their 1,000 card value box.
Yeah.
And every single one of them's a hit for you, and you didn't have to waste money to get there.
So let's build an argument for people moving this direction.
Okay.
Having said that, if I had much more disposable income than I do now, I would probably be a guy that says, hey, here's the 5 or 6 products I love, and I'm either going to get a box or a case of this every year when these release.
Yeah, if you're going to go that route, it's just very simple.
You have a lot of money to blow.
Well, yeah, not only do you have a lot of money to blow, but you have to understand how this stuff works, and you have to spread your risk out.
Which now it's already becoming boring that you even said that sentence.
Well,
like you're zapping the fun out of it.
Well, if you're just buying a box, it's literally a lottery ticket with worse odds.
Yeah.
So if you're going to spend real money, like going after stuff, you got to buy by the case or buy multi-cases.
Yeah.
That's how you do it if you're going to do it for that reason.
Since I'm not that guy.
Yeah, since you're
and
not
I'm
that
not
guy.
going to blow that money.
Buy singles.
I'm moving more to that, and I'm enjoying it more.
Yeah.
It feels more like a hunt. There's a little bit of the interaction with people trying to make a deal. You find other people that start learning what you love and be like, hey, I got, found some dolphin stuff. Or, hey, I heard on, it's cool when we have a show and somebody's like, hey, I heard on the podcast you're buying these, blah, blah, blah for next season. Here's a box. Do you want to make an offer? I mean, obviously that's awesome.
Yeah.
Right. But I'm enjoying the hobby more by collecting singles. And I think there's a philosophy behind it. It's not just economical. I think it is really easy to forget what you enjoy about the hobby when you're
If you let
focused
yourself,
on
yeah.
just chasing the hit.
And so one of the things that's very different between for you and me in these conversations, why it's really good conversations, is that the stuff that I quote unquote collect is so obscure and random that you don't find it at shows. I have to actively seek it out online and in different places. When I'm buying and stuff, I'm buying for my business. Right. So and there's a lot of people that do that in different ways. The way that I do it rubs some people the wrong way, but what nobody can ever say is that I took advantage of anybody. What nobody can ever say is I wasn't honest and transparent and clear about what I was doing. There was a really good conversation today that I had in one of the Facebook groups, one of the bigger ones, with people talking about wanting to start getting into this side of things. And that's, I don't want to jump ahead. That's the next tier, the next leg of what we're going to talk about, but we'll get into that.
Okay. I'm just simply making my argument that if you haven't ventured much into this area of buying singles, going to shows, online on the sales, I'm having a blast whenever I go yard selling, just bringing it up. I don't see any cards here. I don't happen to see any cards. You don't happen to have a box sitting around somewhere. And I'll even say I'm a dealer, so I'm always looking for more inventory.
Yeah.
And you'll get I know somebody that might, or hang on a second. And that moment when they say hang on a second,
you get excited.
In your mind, you're like, it's going to be nothing but Jordan rookies.
Well, and I think it's also really important to ask this question, and this sounds really corny and really cheesy, but it is really important. Why are you buying cards? What's your reason for buying cards? Are you a Reds fan and you're buying Elly De La Cruz cards right now because you're really excited about Elly De La Cruz and you want to collect him? Mm-hmm. Cool.
And to feel like I was a part of investing in him. I believe in you so much. My money is going towards you, Elly.
Are you buying cards because you want to turn around and flip them?
Mm-hmm.
Are you buying cards because long term that's something? Are you buying cards because you want to grade them and hold them long term for an investment to sell it? Mm-hmm. Like all those questions.
Are you collecting because you want to have your kids and grandkids get into this and you want to pass the collection on? Yeah,
and all those things are going to influence the way that you choose to buy cards. If you're buying stuff because you're a gambling addict, one, get help, but two, just keep buying boxes and go nuts, and then sell all the stuff back to guys like us really cheap so we can sell it.
Yeah, and your 5 blasters, you might sell enough to get half of another one.
Yeah, and that's just the reality.
Yeah, if you enjoy that part of it, there's a whole segment of the hobby that I would say are enthusiasts that's their thing. They love ripping new packs.
They're gambling addicts,
and they like blowing money on it. For me, I don't like blowing money and then being done and like.
What was the movie with Matthew McConaughey and Al Pacino? One for the Money, where McConaughey plays
I don't know that I've seen
a failed athlete and he ends up being a sports gambling pick'em guy on one of those TV shows where they run a pick line.
Yeah.
And Al Pacino's character runs the thing, brings him in. He goes on this crazy streak where he picks like 100 games in a row right, and everybody's calling in, and they're running the scam and selling their picks. And Pacino takes him, because Pacino's a quote-unquote recovered gambler, an addict, and he takes him to a Gamblers Anonymous meeting where he sits down, and when it's his turn to speak, he goes into this whole thing about how as a gambling addict, you never feel more alive than when you lose. Mm-hmm. And then he proceeds to hand out business cards for his gambling betting line to all the gambling addicts and leaves. But that's the way that it is for a lot of these guys. Yeah. They spend $1,500 on a box of Prism and get $180 out of it if they're lucky.
Mm-hmm. And it's the feeling of I lost everything, but I'm okay.
And I'm still here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's an exhausting game to play.
It is. It is. There's a reason these people end up in treatment facilities.
Well, I think there's a few positive takeaways of people moving more into collecting the singles as well. I think it's going to force more interaction. Not everybody has
Which I don't know how I feel about that.
Yeah. But I think it is becoming a little more intergenerational at the card shows.
Yeah.
You're seeing, and not just, we've talked about it before, you got the little kids jumping in, trying to hustle. I think that's cool. It can get annoying, but I think it's good. But then you meet the guy that has an old Steno notebook, and he's been trying to chase down, and he wants to complete the 67 top set, and he's been trying to for, all these years, and you get to hear his story a little bit, and then you look through the top set, the collections that he has completed, the sets that he has, and he's got some awesome stories of barn finds and all that. So for me, there's a romance to the hobby there that just gets overlooked, and so this is my invitation to all of you that are burnt out on ripping packs and expecting a return that
come to the altar of singles.
Yes. Come in, jump in. The water's fine. So let's kick it off. When it comes to sourcing them, there's usually two philosophies. One just for collecting, two for investing or flipping.
Yep.
We'll call it collecting or flipping.
Yep.
Okay. I don't source from any one area. I'll run down my few really quick, and then you can add to that or whatever. So when I am buying singles that are likely going to be sold in the next year or two, meaning they're probably going to end up in a box that I use at a show, I think there's a good value there. I mostly will source those on Facebook and Facebook groups. Huge opportunity there because you could literally spend 10, 12 hours a day looking through 2 or 3 groups and looking at new sales. Easily. Every hour or two, somebody's posting thousands of cards. A lot of times it's in the claim format, meaning somebody posts a card, they say, here's what I want, and you just say, I want that one, right? And there'll be hundreds of photos underneath that. For me, that's been a good way to purchase cards for a little bit of profit there. I don't do much auction on Facebook. I just don't want to play the game of did I have the same time-stamped comment as everybody else right when it closes. Speaking of auction, eBay's the other place I'll source from. If I'm buying from eBay, I'm only buying it because it's a card for me. It's because it's a card I want to keep. It's a card that's hard to find. I'm not seeing it at a lot of shows, or I wanted it in this certain slab, or I'm looking for a cleaner version of this card.
Or it's something super rare and it's the only place I can find it.
Right. I'm going to probably pay a little bit more. Not always, but probably. And it's going to take me a while to find that one. I like eBay for finding gifts. Like, my dad's easy to get gifts for because he loves cards, right? So I can find him some cool stuff. I can find him Clementi's or some Reds Autos that we don't see all the time, right?
Right.
So Facebook there. And then card shows / out in the wild, I guess local. Those are just more for me, I think, about building the relationships, finding out who knows what you're looking for. And eventually they start saying, hey, some of the stuff you like is over in this box.
Yeah.
When you get into that territory, then you're in good shape. How would you say you source your cards? Which ones do you lean towards for collecting personally? And then if you're buying to sell?
So for collecting personally, it's almost exclusively online or through what you were saying at the very end there, guys who have developed relationships who know the few things that I personally collect. And when they see them, they'll call me or tag me or whatever else. But that doesn't happen often because the things that I personally collect, people don't usually think anybody wants, so they don't end up putting them up for sale. For how I source cards for my business, it's very, very simple. It's probably 70% Facebook and 30% shows and shops. And the secret to this is very, very simple, but it's something that a lot of people are very uncomfortable with. And it's this: you have to have a thick skin and you have to be honest. You're going to have to offer much, much, much less than what people want to sell something for. And sometimes they get really mad. I don't get mad when people make me offers that I don't like. I just tell them no and move on. But there are people out there who get really upset. And there are people who are afraid to make offers because they really fear confrontation, or they just don't like the idea that somebody might say no to them. And if that's you, you're going to have a hard time being a dealer. It's going to be very, very difficult for you to do. But when I'm buying online, we've talked about this before, know what your niche is. There are guys who set up at shows and their niche is graded cards. And sometimes it's low-end graded cards, and sometimes it's high-end graded cards, but that's their niche, and that's what they do. My niche, and Jason's seen this happen. I was talking to somebody about it the other day. There are shows that I'm a regular at where there are literally lines of people wanting to look through my boxes. They will stand behind and wait 20 minutes for the guy in front of them to get done so they can get into the boxes. My niche is my $1 and $2 boxes. Plain and simple. I sell on a monthly basis 12 to 1,500 cards every single month out of those 2 boxes. So how do I source those? Because my $1 boxes don't look like anybody else's $1 boxes. And anybody who goes through them will tell you that. Guys get mad at me on Facebook. They're like, you can't possibly have those. And I'll literally make videos of my $1 boxes. My $1 boxes do not have...
Because your skin is so thick.
No, it's not about my skin not being thick. It's because I want people to know exactly that I'm telling them the truth. My $1 boxes don't have $1 cards in them. And if you find a card that comps for $1 in my dollar box, it's because it's been there for 3 months. When it went in there, it comped for $2 to $3. Mm-hmm. And if there's a card in my $2 box, is all cards that comp for $3 to $4. Sometimes people have pulled $20 cards out of my $2 box because I held them in there too long and forgot they were there. I want people to walk away from those 2 boxes feeling like they won, like they found good deals. The show I was at on Saturday, one guy from my 50 cent and $1 boxes spent $350. One guy. So know what your niche is and figure out how to do it. People wonder, well, how can you possibly do that? It's because there are 2 kinds of people in this hobby for the most part. One, people who open a lot of product but think that anything worth less than $50 isn't worth their time. So they either throw it in the trash or it just goes and sits in boxes and takes up enough space till they're finally like, I got to get rid of some of this stuff. And then guys like me come along and go, hey, I'm looking for cards that comp between $2 and $4. And cards that comp between $2 and $3, I'm going to pay you 40 cents a piece for in bulk. And cards that comp between $3 and $4, I'm going to pay 90 cents a piece for in bulk. I want to buy 100 cards minimum. You don't have to top load any of them. I just want them packaged securely so they get to me safely. And you'd be shocked how many people are okay doing that because they don't have an outlet to sell those cards. Trying to sell those cards on Facebook groups, unless you're willing to do what Jason does sometimes, where he'll spend 5 or 6 hours doing a claim sale, just listing it, and then another 5, 6, 7 hours packaging it up, sorting it all out, sending it out. Unless you're willing to do that, it's really hard to sell those cards. So when a guy like me comes along and goes, hey, I'll take 500 of them off your hands, as long as you're willing to sell them at the price that I want to pay, I'm helping them. And they're helping me, and everybody wins. But you got to be honest with people and direct and straightforward. Then I go to shows. When I'm not set up at a show on a weekend, I go to a show. Mm-hmm. And I look through people's dollar boxes. I look through people's 50 cent boxes and their $2 boxes. I look at the slabs that they have on their table. Don't be afraid to make people offers. Last month, I bought a PSA 9 Josh Allen Donruss rookie, a PSA 9 Orange Laser Jalen Hurts rookie, and a PSA 9 Red, White, and Blue Jalen Hurts rookie. I offered the guy $200 for all 3. He said yes. I sold them all for $110 a piece. Mm-hmm. Like, don't be afraid to make offers. What's the worst thing that can happen? The guy says no. Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. I appreciate your time. It was nice talking to you. Have a good one. Hope you have a great show. Mm-hmm. That's how I source my stuff, and it's worked really well for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm drawn to lean towards the 50 cent, $1, $2 boxes because I think what I enjoy the most is finding something unexpected.
It is, but I also think it's really important for people, if that's how you want to source things, you really have to know what cards are worth in that niche. Whatever niche you're in, you need to know off the top of your head roughly what the market is for stuff. Because if I start going through somebody's dollar box, I can usually tell within the first 40 or 50 cards whether it's worth my time going through the rest of the box.
When you start hitting some score base.
Yeah. If I start seeing, 2023 Topps flagship, Pete Alonso base cards in the dollar box, I'm out. I don't need to look more because, and I'm not ragging on the guy for trying to sell it for
there may still be the $20 card in there, but you're going to spend a lot of time.
Yeah, it just isn't worth that. When I go through a dollar box, my goal is to pull 40 or 50 cards out. Like that's what I'm trying to accomplish. There's a couple of shops that I go to, and I'm not going to say their names because they're kind of honey holes for me. And you go do your own research and find your places. But there's a couple of shops that I go to at least twice a month. I try to go once a week just to dig through their dollar boxes because I'm going to pull 50, 60, 70 cards that'll go in my $2 box. And I'll go through their $5 boxes and I'll find 5, 6, 7, 8 cards that I'll be able to sell for $15 to $20 a piece. because I'm a baseball guy, and so many LCSs, their customer base are wanting football and basketball.
And basketball.
That was such a good movie.
Baseball is one where you have volatility in other sports, basketball, definitely, football, but it's all over the news if somebody is off or this or that. Baseball, if somebody's on the come up, they have to be murdering it for several weeks before it gets any attention. And also, there's a good chance that the game was blacked out, so the Reds fans in the area didn't even get to watch it, right? So that's another reason that's a good hustle on that.
It is, and here's another reason why you want to really know your market when you're digging through dollar boxes and 50-cent boxes, $2 boxes. As a dealer, I can tell you personally that there are very few things that will set me off at a card show. I don't get upset with my customers too often. Mm-mm. But if you're digging through my dollar boxes and you pull your phone out and start comping my dollar cards,
well, there's a line.
You can GTFO. Yeah. I won't drop an F-bomb on the podcast, but you can GTFO. Get away from my table, because I promise you this isn't going to end well for either one of us.
Yeah.
Oh, this card you're asking $1 for, but the last 3 sales were 83 cents. Leave.
Yeah.
Leave right now.
Well, I just say, hey, if you want to build up a huge stack of these, I might give you a couple free.
Yeah, for sure.
But I don't take offers on 50-cent, $1 or $2.
No, cards. And I usually tell people, what can you do if I buy 100 of them? Probably 15% off. I'll do 85%. I'll try to be fair. And usually what will happen is somebody will pull 17 cards or 18 cards out of my dollar box, and I'll be like, how about $15?
Yep.
Right? I want to be fair. I want people to feel good about the transaction.
I want people to want to come back.
Yeah, but I'm not going to sit here and have you comp every dollar card you're pulling out of my box.
But here's the thing.
Leave.
I understand, too, that some people, that's how they're sourcing, and they have no problem buying these cards up at $1 that they're going to sell for $1.50 plus $3 shipping on eBay.
And that's awesome.
They have time to do it, and if your store's big enough, at 1 to 2% close of your store per day, which is typically what you can get, those guys are probably moving a couple $100 a day. I would hate the thought of doing plain white envelope shipping or whatever that new. And when I first started selling cards, I spent most of my time on eBay selling it. Now, the prices you were getting on eBay were awesome. You were making a lot of money, but it never failed. And this is true in any industry. The cheapest people are going to complain.
Pains in the ass.
It was always a card that was worth $2 that I sold for $3 shipped. And, this vintage card, the edges were more worn than they thought in the picture. And I spent more time on a claim. I just got to the point where I just started giving people their money and telling them to keep the card. Right?
Yeah, it's way easier.
Yeah. But that's the thing too. But it's interesting, even listening to us talk about singles, that we're already going back to the revenue side of it. We have a tendency with the hobby to think heavily about it that way.
For me, it's, again, I love this hobby and I enjoy it, but I'm a dealer. I don't make any bones about that. That just means that I enjoy the hobby in a different way. Again, it doesn't mean there aren't things that I collect that are never for sale, because there are. But I do look at things that way. I look at things.
Well, and you have some things that you put out there, like for example, the Hank Aaron auto.
Oh, the one on the Sportscaster? Yeah. It's there and there's a price on it.
And it's a big price, but you love it, and it's half show and tell, half for sale.
Yeah. It's one of those things that I tell people when they ask about it. Hey, how much is that? This is the price. Oh, will you do any? Nope. That's the price. I don't care if it ever sells.
Yeah.
It's a really cool display piece. It draws attention to my table.
Yeah.
It's just I try to, and I haven't for a few months because I haven't been able to find somebody that'll sell me the set, and I don't have the impetus or the desire to build it myself. But I used to try to keep one of the Elite Spellbound full names at the top of one of my showcases.
You always sell those.
Like Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow. And I had somebody who had a Burrow set not too long ago, and he showed it to me and stuff for sale. And I was like, oh, I'd be interested in this. Oh, I don't really want to sell that. Why you show it to me then? But it's always cool because it draws people's attention, and they always sell. And then I have to try to find another one.
So I guess that was all 3 categories, right?
Yeah, I think so. If you're thinking about setting up at shows, I guess my 3 pieces of advice would be: 1, make sure you have enough desirable product. So one of the hardest things for collectors who decide to be dealers is that they can't take their emotion out of it, and they think because they love something that other people are going to want it.
It's hard,
and that is not true.
It's still hard for me. Yep.
There's a guy who sets up. I set up at a show in Wheelersburg, Ohio, monthly. It's a great little show. If you're in the Portsmouth, Southern Ohio area, first Saturday of the month, it's a great little show worth coming and checking out. There's a guy who sets up here. He's a really nice guy. He always buys stuff from me. He's another dealer. He always buys stuff from me. The stuff he sets out at the show, I have no idea what he's thinking. And then at the end of the show, he's like, I only sold a card. I only sold 2 cards. Yeah. Nobody wants your 1988 Donruss. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, nobody's going to buy that.
Yeah.
So one, you got to separate your emotion. Just because you like something doesn't mean that other people do. And just because other people do doesn't mean they value it the same way you do. If you're not willing to sell your stuff at what the market is, then just be prepared to be frustrated.
Honestly, the market is probably a little bit less. People at card shows are looking for a deal unless it's something in super high demand.
Like the only stuff on my table that I'm not like actively willing to cut deals on is Joe Burrow stuff and Ellie De La Cruz stuff right now. Like, those are the 2 things that I don't need to cut a deal on.
Yeah.
Like, good luck.
Yeah.
You're not going to find it cheaper.
Gary mentioned the time I put in on my claim sales, which in my experience, I've gotten to the point where I can pretty efficiently get thousands of cards out in a couple hours, have them up. But it is a lot of time. The flip side of that is, if you're considering getting to shows, my first recommendation would be start going to shows. Don't just pop into one for 30 minutes.
Yes.
Go to a couple of shows first. Sit at some dollar boxes. Look through and see if you find some deals. Ask some questions. Negotiate. When you go into your first show, I wasn't doing that. I went to a show once and I was like, all right, I'm doing it. I'm selling. It's a lot.
Yeah.
And, for me, a claim sale setting up on Facebook, it may be 4 or 5 hours, but I've got the game on. I'm in my sweats.
Yep.
Have a beverage.
It's different.
Snacks. I can just stop whenever. Card shows take a lot of time.
It's work.
It's a lot of time. With your prices marked, you can do, like we talked about this last time, where you say, hey, if something looks off, it probably is. I haven't priced things in a while, let me know. You can do that. But if you have Bowman, like, for example, I had a prospect card that literally right when the product dropped in retail was $90. It was already down to 20 or 30. Like, you put 2 or 3 of those cards out on your display, it doesn't take long for the other people buying to just be like, ugh. In the same way that junk in the $1 box can be an issue. So you've got some time involved there. For me, learning how to price these cards, I forced myself. I was going only into, this is the best thing I could do. If you're thinking about getting into a card show, this would be my recommendation. I got on Facebook, got into some groups where you could buy, sell, trade, and I only went for 25 to 50 cent sales. Because my thought was, if I screw up, I'll at least get half of this back on the card.
Right.
But I made myself buy a lot in the sale, so 50, 100, 200 cards.
It's the only way to make it worthwhile.
Takes hours.
$5 shipping.
Takes hours to go through that.
You buy 5 50-cent cards, you got $7.50 in them.
Yeah.
That doesn't make sense.
But I forced myself to look up each card. Even if I knew this is either worth $1 or $3, I made myself spend 20, 30 hours going through. And over time, I kind of enjoyed it. Yeah. But then, now I have an eye for some cards. Like, you've been hearing me talk about, there are 90s basketball inserts that are all the time 25 to 50 cents. And the people that collect that want all of them that you have in the box when they find out you have a couple.
Yes.
And there's some that look very similar, but they aren't. There's some Topps Finest base that's just one different variation. There are inserts in the Topps Finest stuff. The Defenders, Dominators, Apprentice, the Sterling. Like, there's so much there, but you're going to have to spend the time on it.
Well, that's the thing. I think that this is a really good.
This is not sneaker flipping anymore.
Correct. This is a really good analogy for this. You can really like football, and you might have played high school football, and you can really enjoy watching NFL football. But if you didn't love the game enough to put the work into it, you were never going to get past high school.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, it's the same thing. You can be a collector. It takes a different level of dedication and love for what you're doing with this stuff to be a successful dealer, because it's work. It's not just, hey, I bought a bunch of shit over the last 3 years. I'm just going to take it to a show and say, when's the last time we saw that happen? We were at Xenia, And this dude he was trying to raffle his whole collection on the back wall. This dude thought this was going to be free money. He was like, I'm just going to sell raffle tickets for 20,000 cards, 19,500 of which are just base junk for $10 a piece. And once I sell, 300 tickets, we'll just give it all. I don't think that dude sold 20 tickets in 3 months.
Well, and then people ask, hey, what's going to happen if you don't get all of them? He said, well, next month we'll keep it going.
Yeah, which is no. So it's work. And you better really, really know that this is something you enjoy, or you will burn out on it. I can't tell you how many guys burn out on it, but I guess
it becomes only about the flip, because it can become where it's like, I have to get X out of this, or I feel like I'm wasting my time. You're forgetting what this hobby's about. If you're there.
If it's not a business for you, if it's just a hobby for you, one of the things I will say, if you want to be a dealer, that comes in really handy is, if you're the type of person that's very entrepreneurial, you've always got a business idea, you really enjoy the weeds of that, it's just a lot of fun. I'm that way. Like, my brain works that way. But my 3-piece advice would be, figure out what your niche is and learn it like the back of your hand, so that you don't have to look stuff up. Because this is the other thing that'll happen at a show. You go to a show and you find something in a box and you think it's a really good deal, and you look it up and you see that it is, and the guy behind the table sees you looking it up, he'll pull that sumbitch and say, oh, I'm sorry, that was priced wrong.
Yeah.
Know what you're looking for, just put it in your stack.
Yeah.
And listen, be confident enough that you're okay being wrong.
And allow yourself to be in the playing field where, if you make a mistake, you didn't bet the farm.
If you can't afford $100 cards, don't buy $100 cards.
Obscure, a super rare SP, but it's in a really bad slab for resale, if your goal is to make money off of it.
Right. So know your niche and learn it. That's 1. 2, understand what your margins are, and understand that you need to make sure that your customers feel like they won. They need to walk away from that table going, man, that was an awesome deal. And hopefully they feel like you did okay too, but they need to feel like they won. If you can buy your stuff properly for that to happen, you're going to be very successful. And last but not least, understand the types of shows that you're setting up at. This is the hardest lesson for me. Don't be afraid to ask the organizers of the show, hey, the customers that come to your show, what are they looking for? If they're looking for, if a guy running a show says, yeah, most of our guys are looking for basketball stuff, I know I should never set up at that show.
Unless you're the only baseball guy.
Well, but I mean, if 85 to 90% of the guys at the show are looking for basketball stuff,
I need to expect that I'm banking on one baseball guy.
Yeah, one baseball guy coming in. So know the type of shows that you're setting up at and what that customer base is. I mean, let's be frank. If I'm setting up in Wheelersburg, Ohio, and again, love the show. Justin puts on a great show. I love all the people there. You're not selling $5,000 cards in Wheelersburg, Ohio. You're going to sell a shitload of $1 and $2 cards. You might even sell some $25 and $30 cards and the occasional $100 card. You're not selling $5,000 cards in Wheelersburg, Ohio.
Right.
The poverty rate in Wheelersburg, Ohio is 42%. Like, know your audience.
Yep.
And bring the appropriate stuff. That would be my advice for that side of it.
Yep. I don't disagree. Put in the work. Find something you like. If it's becoming a chore and the chore of the hobby is burning you out, just go back to buying what you like.
Yes, 100%.
Take a couple months, go to some shows, go back to what made you fall in love with it. Every now and then, I'll just go buy some Eric Davis autos because that's still my favorite thing to collect.
Or just don't buy anything at all for a while and go look through the stuff you have that you haven't looked at in a year.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, you'll be shocked at what you'll find that you forgot was there and now has some value, and then you're excited again.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's our advice. We are fully endorsing the move towards the hobby being more singles friendly.
Absolutely.
We're not against opening packs. It's still such a part of the hobby, and we love it. But I think that this is a good thing for the hobby.
Yeah. If you're going to open packs, do it strategically. For me this year, it was my normal Bowman. I'll always open Bowman. But Big League was a product for me this year that was strategically awesome. $50 for a hobby box. Very rarely going to lose. And if you do, you're losing $25. I'm okay with that.
Yep.
I've been known to spend $25 at McDonald's on myself.
What is it? We got at the Hardee's at the truck stop. Two mushroom
Swiss burgers, baby. They're the best.
This has been the Ball Card Show, the sports podcast.
For the Sports Collector.
Bye now.
Peace.